ऊंचा रहे तेरा निशान, ऐ कादियां दारुल अमा, ऐ कादियां दारुल अमा, ऐ कादियां दारुल अमा, ऐ कादियां दारुल अमा.
This is Qadian, a humble town with small beginnings. More than 100 years ago, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah and Imam Mahdi, was tasked by Allah to revive Islam. Back then, this was a tiny, dusty village that no one knew. This is Qadian now, 100 years on, far removed from mud houses and dirt roads. Known all over the world, the largest town in the area. Now, the promised Messiah ﷺ was not meant to live forever, but his message of the revival of Islam, the Islam of Hazrat Muhammad ﷺ, was meant to be everlasting. He had gathered a band of followers, more than 100,000 people, and these people needed a leader because they knew if they were meant to continue, they needed a true leader. A leader that was a reflection of the promised Messiah ﷺ. This was in the shape of one of his closest companions and one of his closest friends.
Khalifatul Masih Awwal was the 33rd or the 34th direct descendant of Hazrat Umar Raziallahu Anhu, the second Caliph of Islam among the four Khulafai Rashidin. As well as from his mother's side, he was a descendant from Hazrat Ali Raziallahu Anhu.
Right, so such a well-known figure.
Yeah.
How was it that he came across Hazrat Masih Maud salam, and what started their companionship?
He came across a torn page of Brahine Ahmadiyya in Jammu. After reading it, he got so interested in the book that he went ahead and bought the book. And after reading it, he felt an urgent desire that I should meet the writer of this book. Then he traveled he was in Jammu, he traveled from Jammu to Amritsar. From Amritsar, he came down to Batala. From Batala, at that time, the train used to stop at Batala. The train line used to end at Batala. From Batala, you would take a horse-pulled carriage, which is known as Tonga, okay, to Qadian. And there he met a number of opponents to the promised Messiah alayhi salam. And the way these people were talking about the promised Messiah alayhi salam, he was like, is this the same man whose book I have read? Am I going to the right place? But then he thought that I've already made such a long journey. Let's go and at least, it's a short distance more. Let's at least go and see this person. And then when he saw for the first time the promised Messiah alayhi salam, my heart was filled with joy. I felt that this is the person, this angelic, beautiful person is whom I have been waiting for all my life to meet. On one end, there is this ardent desire in Khalifatul Masih Awwal's heart to meet the person who's written this book. And on the other end, the promised Messiah alayhi salam has been praying to Allah that I need a helper like you gave Harun to Musa alayhi salam, the Moses. Okay?
This was an actual prayer of the Prophet.
This was an actual prayer of promised Messiah alayhi salam that I need a helper.
हर यक ज़ोमते नूर दी बूदी हमें बूदी गे हर दिल पुरज़ नूर.
Here lies our beloved master, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, the Imam Mahdi and the promised Messiah ﷺ. And next to him, his beloved disciple, Hazrat Maulana Hakim Nuruddin Sahib, Khalifatul Masih I, Raziyallahu Anhu. This very site was shown to the promised Messiah ﷺ by an angel in a vision, where he pointed out his grave shining like silver. He was then commanded by Allah to build this heavenly graveyard, the Bahishti Maqbara. The promised Messiah prayed that those of pure heart and those who have given preference to faith over the world should be buried here. His family members are buried here, and his closest companions surround him. This site was a beautiful garden full of trees of fruits of all sorts that was frequented by the promised Messiah ﷺ.
You know, Hazrat Masih Maud Islam, he was also a human. And you know, as human beings, after their life, they have to pass away. Similar is the case with Hazrat Masih Maud Islam. When he passed away, you know, the companions, they were very afraid and worried about the future of Jamaat. But the divine aid was here. Allah the Almighty was there to help them. That is why it was revealed before his demise that there will be second manifestation of God. So Alhamdulillah, Allah the Almighty guided those people on the right path. And you know, as after a Khalifa there should be, it comes in a hadith that there will be a successor after a Khalifa. Similar is the case with Hazrat Masih Maud Islam. When he passed away in 1907, the successorship, the Khilafat starts from here in Bahishti Maqbara. And you know, the whole companions, they gathered at one place, and Alhamdulillah, they elected one Khalifa.
This was a new dawn. A new chapter had started in this community's history. Hazrat Khalifa al-Masih I immediately set about continuing the works of the promised Messiah ﷺ. Educational initiatives, the tarbiyat, the development of the community, and most importantly, to strengthen the community. But it was at the same time a very dangerous thought started arising. A thought that could potentially tear this community apart.
During the lifetime of Promised Messiah salam, Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya was formed for some administrative and legal purpose. But after the death of Promised Messiah salam, they started creating a confusion, stating that the real successor of Promised Messiah salam is Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya. When these matters reached Khalifatul Masih Awwal, he gave a historic sermon, a very strong sermon, in which he clearly advised the Jamaat that it is not Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya who has made me Khalifa, it is Allah who has made me a Khalifa. And in very strong words, he admonished the Jamaat members who had this thinking that it is Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya who made Khalifatul Masih Awwal the Khalifa of the time. After listening to this sermon, this strong and emotional sermon, it is reported that the whole mosque, the members present started crying, and the members of Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya sought forgiveness from Khalifatul Masih Awwal, saying that they have made a mistake and please accept their forgiveness.
खिलाफत क्या है एक फज़ले अज़ीम मेरा बेरहमा है सरासर नूर और रहमत इल्म और हिकमत का गुलिस्तान है.
This magnificent structure is the new home of Jamia Ahmadiyya Qadiani, previously known as the madrasa, set up in the lifetime of Hazrat Masih Maud himself to train scholars. Now we know these institutions for the past 100 years have been training missionaries who have been sent all over the world in more than 200 countries. They have been the ones to spread Islam Ahmadiyya to the corners of the world, from the smallest islands to the biggest countries. They've set up mosques, they've trained Ahmadi people, they've trained Mu'allimeen who have then gone on to do more tabligh. So these institutions have been instrumental in the spread of Islam Ahmadiyya and in training individuals and Jamaats. And if it wasn't for the efforts of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I, Radiyallahu Anhu, these institutions wouldn't be around. What does this institution do in very short? What kind of people does it prepare?
When prominent leaders, prominent Sahabas of Promised Messiah Islam, such as Maulana Burhanuddin Sahib Jailmi radhiyallahu anhu and Maulana Abdul Karim Sahib Sialkoti, when they passed away, so the Promised Messiah Islam felt that there was a need of an institution where we can create such kind of ulamas like Burhanuddin Sahib Jailmi and Abdul Karim Sahib Sialkoti.
So is it true that this institution actually came under threat at one point? Could you tell me about that?
7 months after the demise of Promised Messiah Islam, in a religious conference, some prominent ulamas of this community, Maulana Muhammad Ali Sahib and all, they proposed that this institution should be, they thought that the fund which is used for this institution can be used in some other purposes. So they felt that this institution is not necessary. So, but the Khalifatul Masih, the Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib, he was not Khalifa at that time, and Khalifatul Masih Awal, they strongly opposed this. They said that how this was the vision of Promised Messiah Islam. How can we stop? How can we shut it down? The vision of Promised Messiah Islam about Jamia Ahmadiyya. So because of these their efforts, Alhamdulillah, we have Jamias in more than 10 countries today.
MashaAllah. And all under the guidance of Khulafa then, and the same under the guidance of Khulafa now. MashaAllah. Jazakallah. Another great service of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I was sending a well-known companion of the Promised Messiah ﷺ to London. Fateh Muhammad Sayal Saab set up a mission on Melrose Road, what we know as Fazl Mosque. This was the foundation stone for setting up missions in the West. And this was also the foundation stone for the future home of Khilafat in London.
खिलाफत हिर्ज़ जानो नूर ऐनी हर मुसलमान है.
In the spirit of true Islam, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I had immense care and worry for the needy and poor. For those who couldn't afford homes or places to live, Hazur commissioned this. This is the neighborhood of Nasrabad. Hazur commissioned 22 houses to be built for the poor and needy, those who can't afford their homes. And he actually gave money for the first house to be built himself. As a result, 22 houses were built in Nasrabad, and this is the result. It is still standing to this day, 100 years on. By the time of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I, Ahmadis had poured into Qadian in great numbers. So Qadian was bursting at the seams. So Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I instructed for the construction of a new neighborhood, which he named Darul Uloom. And at the same time, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I laid the foundation stone for the Mosque of Darul Uloom neighborhood, the Nur Masjid. So this is in fact the first mosque built in Qadian after the demise of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I Raziyallahu Anhu was passionate about books and educating the public. His personal collection of rare books that he had amassed from all over India and his travels to Mecca was actually quite famous. Many well-known non-Ahmadi Muslim scholars were known to borrow books from him from time to time. So during the time of his Khilafat, he set up the first public library for Ahmadi Muslims here in Qadian, and this is its brand new location. And to set it up, he donated most of his books. Walking through these sacred alleys that our Promised Messiah ﷺ walked through on a daily basis, it's hard to imagine that there was a senior group of people in Anjuman that were conspiring against the Khalifa, quietly at first. Now, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I did some great work. He continued the good works of the Promised Messiah ﷺ. But it almost seemed like this group wanted to get rid of all the works of Prophet Muhammad, we already know that they wanted to get rid of the madrasa institution. Things were getting bad to worse, and it seemed like this Jamaat would be gripped by complete darkness. Now these conspirations were out in the open. They were openly saying there is no need for a Khalifa. Members of the community were being misinformed. There was confusion and discord. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I had to put a stop to this. So he convened a meeting of senior Jamaat officials, almost 200 people. He didn't convene it in Masjid Aqsa, the larger mosque. He convened it in Masjid Mubarak. And he didn't address these people from the bigger section of the mosque. He addressed them from the smaller part of the mosque, the one built by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadiani, a promised Messiah.
As Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal, when he was elected as Khalifa, he was all the time over here in this Masjid Mubarak. He has a habit of leading namaz over here, doing prayers, and he was, continuously giving answers, all the mails which were coming, all the letters.
So he used to do that himself?
Yeah, he would do that for him.
There must be quite a few letters in that time.
Yes, he do it like that. And Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal, he was doing giving dars of hadith and Quran in this mosque in Masjid Mubarak. Yes.
So this was all along, while he was Hazrat Khalifatul Masih?
Yeah, when he was Khalifatul Masih, he was doing that in this mosque. One more thing that had happened at the time of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal, when some unfortunate elements which were within Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya, they started to conspire against Khilafat at the time of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal. He gathered almost 200% Ahmadis in this oldest part of mosque. And he said at that particular time that I'm not going to stand in the portion of the mosque which is built by you guys.
So that would be the extended part of the mosque? Right, okay.
So he said that I'm not going to stand in that portion. He said that I'm going to stand in the portion which was built by my Mirza. And it was the doing of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal. When he has to show his great love and affections to Hazrat Promised Messiah Islam, he used the word my Mirza. So he said that I'm going to stand in the oldest part which was built by Hazrat Masih Maud Islam. So he came down here and he delivered the lecture.
Hazrat Khalifa, the situation must have had to be extremely a tough one. Things must be quite at their worst for Hazrat Khalifatul Masih to have to address a situation like this.
These unfortunate elements which were in Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya, they were saying that we don't need a Khalifa who has to do something with administration point of view. They said that we need a Khalifa who take bath, who leads the namaz, who do the nikahs and ceremony and like this they were saying. They said that we don't need a Khalifa who look after for the administration things. They said that we do have body of Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya and that is sufficient. But it is totally different and it is totally wrong to what we read in the Holy Quran and to which was revealed in the Hadith also. So it was altogether another thing that these people were saying. So that is why Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal, he took a stand over here and he delivered that, he said, it is written in his writing that nobody is going to make, to this person he is saying, that nobody is going to make you Khalifa in my life and nobody is going to elect you Khalifa after me. The person who is going to be a Khalifa will be elected by Allah the Almighty Himself. So this is what it had happened over here in this particular mosque and all have witnessed that. And Khalifatul Masih Awwal had given a very good lecture over here.
That's extremely powerful words by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. Was that the end of this movement to push for the superiority of Anjuman? Did things stop there?
No, it didn't. Unfortunately, it didn't. Because in 1914, what we have witnessed, that is another thing. This extremism has taken altogether another level, and they said that we don't need Khilafat. So that didn't stop over here, unfortunately. But as a Khalifa, he has done his duty. As a Khalifatul Masih Awwal, he delivered what he what he has to. So he had delivered that over here. The message was very clear to all the Ahmadis. It was in this mosque as we have discussed.
Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I Radhiyallahu Anhu was ever loyal and subservient to Hazrat Masih Maud, his prophet, his master. And that is exactly what Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I asked and expected of his community. Loyalty to the institution of Khilafat so that he could carry out his duties given to him by God. Being in the company of Hazrat Masih Maud prepared Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I for amazing leadership. He had to face challenges outside and within the community, which he easily overcame with divine help. Throughout his years as Khalifa, Hazur initiated some amazing initiatives and did some great works. He promoted Urdu so that people could read and understand the works of the promised Messiah ﷺ. He set up the treasury, the Baitul Mal, which still stands today. And after 7 years of undying service, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I passed away in 1914.
है रज़ाए ज़ाते बारी अब रज़ाए क़ादियाँ.
Jamaat Ahmadiyya had just been through one of its most turbulent and dangerous times during this election so early on in the Jamaat's life. But divine help was there with those who had sided with Khilafat Ahmadiyya. The young man who was just elected to the office of Khilafat was the son of the promised Messiah ﷺ. This is Darul Masih, one of the most sacred sites in all of Qadian. Masjid Mubarak, Minatul Masih, Masjid Aqsa, so many of these sacred sites are all over here. This was the house of promised Messiah ﷺ. It was also the house of his ancestors and his extended family. He was born here, in fact. 3 of our Khulafa were born here. So much of what has been built here, the mosques, the various rooms, some of them have been built on commandments of Allah. And most of the revelations that the promised Messiah ﷺ received were in this place. This is also where Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani anhu was born.
You know, if we talk about Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahab, Khalifatul Masih Sani anhu, since his very childhood, he was there in this mosque. He was praying here and doing namaz and dua over here. In fact, one incident imported in the history of Ahmadiyyat, that once Sheikh Ghulam Ahmad Waz Sahab, he decided that he is going to pray the whole night over here in this mosque, in this very mosque. So he came here in this mosque, and when he came, he saw a young person, a young lad over here who is praying in sajda, doing dua in sajda. And that young person was praying in such a way that, you know, Sheikh Ghulam Ahmad Sahab, he was here to pray for himself. Instead of praying for himself, he started praying for that particular person. And he asked Allah the Almighty, may he fulfill all what he is praying.
He must have been praying with quite a lot of passion and intensity.
Yes, he was doing like that, and he was weeping over here in the sajda. So Ghulam Ahmad Sahab, he said that he was very keen to know that who this young person is. You know, just imagine a small person, a young lad who were praying in such a way. That is not we witness so easily. That's an extraordinary thing. It's not a common thing. When that person finished, when he saw that he was Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and he was at that time Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahab, because he was not elected as Khalifa. Way before his Khilafat, he was doing prayers over here. So he asked Hazrat Khalifatul Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahab what he was praying for. What an answer he gave. He said, I was praying for the revival of Islam. Just imagine how his heart was inclined towards the revival of Islam since his childhood.
ए फजले उमर तेरे औसाफे करीमाना.
Hazrat Masih Maud explained that he is a manifestation of God. And he also said that it's been revealed to him that there will also be a second manifestation, which we know to be Khilafat Ahmadiyya. He also prophesied that this Jamaat would split into two. And we witnessed that in the time of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani. That was the first and only example that Allah had set for this Jamaat. That if this Jamaat is to succeed in any way, it cannot be done without being subservient to the system of Khilafat.
खिलाफत जलवाई कुदरत सानी की हामिल है.
These are the brand new offices of Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya Qadian. One of the first efforts of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani was working on the Sadr Anjuman office. After the split in the Jamaat, Sadr Anjuman was left in almost ruins. There was no organization of any sort. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani Razillahu Anhu consolidated the offices of Sadr Anjuman, set its parameters, restructured it, established its objectives in such a far-sighted way that it has stood the test of time. To this day, the Sadr Anjuman offices work just like they did 100 years ago. And even after the addition of so many organs and bodies, there is not a single clash of any sort.
याद के बनाते हैं हर रूह को दीवाना.
One of the most instrumental pursuits of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II was his passion for education. He wanted to ensure that each child and adult, man or woman, had access to great education. Bear in mind, this was a village back then. So he started the Talim al-Islam school. Later, he started the Talim al-Islam College, which was this building right here. Afterwards, he also started an education institute just for women, the Nusrat Girls' School. All of these institutes still exist in different locations all over Qadian. It had been 25 glorious years of the Khilafat of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II Razillahu Anhu. During that time, Hazur had evolved this Jamaat into one of the most organized bodies on this planet. So in celebration of this momentous milestone, a Jalsa was held on this very site with the aim of getting the Jamaat to praise Allah for the blessings of Khilafat Ahmadiyya. It was a most joyous moment. People literally marched to this site on foot. And Lawai Ahmadiyyat, the flag of Ahmadiyyat, was raised on this site for the very first time. Jamaat also offered Hazur a sum of 270,000 rupees, a huge amount at that time, as a gift that Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II diverted towards Jamaat's religious and social projects. This is probably one of the most magnificent structures in all of Qadian. This is the Aqsa Mosque, the largest mosque in the area. It was built in 1876 by the father of Prophet Messiah ﷺ. Nearly every single Khalifa has had some input in the renovation or the extension of this mosque. This beautiful marble multi-story structure that you can see right now, this was commissioned by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V. May Allah be his helper. It also holds one of probably the most iconic landmark in all of Jamaat, the Manaratul Masih. And it's also the site for the fulfillment of one of the most grandest prophecies of the Prophet Messiah ﷺ.
कुदरत ने जिन्हें बख्शा एक नूर यकीन मोहकम कुदरत ने जिन्हें बख्शा एक नूर यकीन मोहकम.
The Promised Messiah ﷺ laid down the foundation of this minara, but it was completed in the time of Hazrat Muslim Maud in 1916. And in 1930s, it was coated with the plaster of white marble, and the clocks were fixed on the top of it. And we see in 1980s, in the time of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Salis, it was veneered with the slabs of white marble, which we are still seeing today. And this whiteness of the minara, it makes it significant and it's beautiful. And the whole area knows this minara, and people come here, even non-Muslim, come visit Qadian to see this minara. It is a very beautiful, tourist attraction also. And for Ahmadis, it is a spiritual attraction for them. And also we know that it has become a symbol and mark for the Jamaat. And the official logo of the Jamaat is also based on this minara. And you can see the MTA logo and other logos as well. They consist of this
It was the Lawai Ahmadiyyat is the center feature on that as well.
मुद्दाए हक ताला मुद्दाए
It truly is a magnificent sight seeing Qadian as it is today, a bustling metropolis. The works of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II are truly phenomenal. His efforts to organize this community by creating auxiliary organizations such as Atfal, Khudam, Lajna Nasirat and Ansar organize this community better than entire nations have been able to do. And revolutionary schemes like Tehreek-e-Jadid, which sought to spread Islam Ahmadiyyat to the corners of the world, shut down extreme movements like the Ahrar, who were looking to destroy Islam. And then his works to protect Islam, not just Islam Ahmadiyyat, but all Muslims of India. He was the one who united Muslims and told them that they should unite under the Muslim League so that they could fight to create their own independent state, Pakistan. And he protected them religiously as well. When the Shuddhi movement sought to forcibly convert Muslims, it was the efforts of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani that protected Muslims. His era and his works are an example of one of the most rapidly progressing eras of Islam Ahmadiyyat.
हर रोज तो तुझ जैसे इंसान नहीं लाती, हर रोज तो तुझ जैसे इंसान नहीं लाती, इंसान नहीं लाती, ये गर्दिश रोजाना, ये गर्दिश दौराना.
By 1947, 33 years of the Khilafat of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II had passed, and we reached a pivotal moment in the history of the world, the partition of the Indian subcontinent into Pakistan and India. So tens of millions of people left their homes and started crossing borders using horse carriages, trains, or even by foot. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih decided that for a short time, to maintain connection with the rest of the Jamaats all over the world, Hazur will go to Pakistan. But this was the birthplace of our Messiah. We had so many holy and sacred sites here, like the Behishti Maqbara and the Darul Masih. So a deal was struck with the government to leave behind 313 brave Khudam and Ansar. These people were called the Dervishan of Qadian. What we see here in Qadian, in terms of our holy sites, is here only by divine grace and the efforts and sacrifice of the Dervishan of Qadian. So Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II then had to look for a new Qadian, a new home for Ahmadi Muslims. And this home was Rabwa.
सितम कर भी हैरान है क्यों हर सितम पर सदा मुस्कुराती है रबवा की गलियां. हमें जब बुलाती है रबवा की गलियां बहुत खुरुला